The War of the Roses by Robert Minning. The Lancasters. John Audley, Edmund Beaufort, Henry Beaufort, Edmund Beaufort, Ralph Percy, Thomas Clifford, John Clifford, Henry Percy II, Earl of Northumberland, Henry Percy III, Earl of Northumberland, and Henry Percy IV, Earl of Northumberland. Richard Neville and John Mowbray. Henry V, born in September 1387 to Henry IV and Mary de Bohun, ruled from 1413 to 1422, crowned King of England in 1413 at the age of 26, led several attacks against France during the 100 Years' War, married to Catherine de Valois, and had one son, Henry VI, died on the 21st of August, 1422 at the age of 35. Henry VI, born on the 21st of May, 1471 to Henry V and Catherine de Valois, ruled from 1422 to 1461 and 1470 to 1471. He was crowned King of England and France when he was a child. England lost the 100 Years' War, and he, his French throne, married Margaret of Anjou and had one child, Edward. Let the Duke of York control England in 1453, and he lost the throne to Edward IV and was murdered after the Battle of Barnet on May 21st, 1471. Henry VII, born on the 28th of January, 1457 to Edmund Tudor, the son of Catherine of Valois and Owen Tudor, and Margaret Beaufort, the daughter of John Beaufort, ruled England from 1485 to 1509, married Elizabeth of York in 1486 to unite the Lancasters and Yorks, and had one child, Henry VIII, took the throne after Richard III died in the Battle of Bosworth, and he died in April 1509. The Yorks. John Clifford, William Herbert, John Howard, John Mowbray, Richard Neville the Earl of Salisbury, and Richard Neville the Earl of Warwick. Edward IV, born on the 11th of February, 1442, to Richard, the Duke of York, and Cicely Neville, ruled from 1461 to 1470 and 1471 to 1483. He was the first York to claim the throne of England. He married Elizabeth Wydeville in 1464 and had two children, Edward V and Richard. He fled to Holland when Henry VI retook the throne in 1471, and he had Henry VI executed, and he retook the throne. Edward V, born in 1470 to Edward IV and Elizabeth Wydeville. He was going to his coronation on May the 4th, 1483, when Richard III cancelled it and sent Edward to the Tower of London. Edward's brother Richard joined him, and they were both murdered, it is suspected, by Richard III. Richard III, born on the 2nd of October in 1452 to Richard, the Duke of York, and Cicely Neville. He claimed the throne after his brother's children, Richard and Edward, were killed in 1483. He married Anne Beauchamp Neville in 1472, and had one child, Edward, Prince of Wales. He ruled until he was killed in the Battle of Bosworth in 1485 by Henry VII. Reasons for the wars. Richard Plantagenet was born to Richard, the son of Richard, who was the son of Edmund, the first Duke of York. This put him in line for the throne, since Edmund was the son of Edward III, who was the previous King of England. Although Richard was in line for the throne, Henry VI was king because of his more direct lineage. Henry VI's father was Henry V, and his father Henry IV, and his father John of Gaunt, and his father Edward III. Both the Lancastrian family and Yorkist family were in line for the throne of England. This genealogy may help to visualize Edward III's lineage. War breaks out. When Henry VI took ill in 1453, it is believed as a result of England's loss in the Hundred Years' War, the Duke of York, Richard Plantagenet, was made Protector of England from 1454 to 1456. The Duke of York used this opportunity to punish his enemies. One of these enemies was the Duke of Somerset, Edmund Beaufort. Edmund was responsible for York's exile when he was assigned Lieutenant of Ireland. More Yorks, the two Richard Nevilles, took advantage of the king's situation and attacked the Percy family over a land dispute. This threw England into a state of minor wars between the lords. The Duke of York used his positions as Protector of England to ensure that his supporters were winning. In January 1455, however, the king slipped out of his illness and freed Somerset of the tower York had put him in. He and the king formed an alliance with the Percy family against the Duke of York, whose powers were taken away. This put the Earls of Warwick and Salisbury and York against Somerset, the Percys, and the king, the Yorks against the Lancasters, respectively. Major battles of the war. First St. Albans, the 22nd of May, 1455. First time Yorkist troops were victorious. The Duke of York led about 3,000 troops to London. Henry VI's troops left London to intercept the York force. The king's army waited in the city of St. Albans, about 300 total casualties. Henry was captured and taken to London. Edmund Beaufort, Thomas Clifford, an ally of the Percys, and Henry Percy were killed. Ludford Bridge, the 12th of October, 1459. The first Lancastrian victory. Yorkist troops headed to Worcester. Henry VI set up forces by Temy River across from the Yorks. Andrew Trollope, the captain of the Calais troops, convinced the men to desert when he switched to the Lancaster side. The rest of the York forces retreated in the morning. After this battle, Richard left England for Ireland. Wakefield, the 30th of December, 1460. A Lancaster victory. The Duke of York and Richard Neville, the Earl of Salisbury, met the Lancaster forces near the town of York. The Duke of York attacked the Lancaster force that was twice his force's size. The Duke of York, Earl of Salisbury, and York's son were killed. Second St. Albans, 17th of December, 1461. A Lancaster victory. Richard III's father, Richard, waited for Edward's army to reinforce him at the town of St. Albans. Before Edward arrived, Queen Margaret, Henry VI's wife, led the Lancaster army to attack them. Richard retreated and left Henry VI under a tree for the Lancasters. Towton, the 29th of March, 1461. A York victory. The Yorks used the snow and wind direction to help their archers against the Lancasters at a hill in Towton. The Lancasters, led by the new Duke of Somerset, charged the Yorks and were pushing back the Yorks when the Duke of Norfolk arrived and backed up Edward's forces to defeat the Lancasters. Henry VI and his son fled to Scotland. Edward was crowned King of England on June 28th. Bluescoat Field, the 12th of March, 1470. Yorkist forces were victorious. Edward raised an army to suppress a revolt at Eppingham. The defeated rebels took off their clothes to flee Edward's forces faster, hence the name Bluescoat. Bosworth, the 22nd of August, 1485. First Tudor victory. Richard III became the king after he killed Edward IV's sons, Edward V and Richard. Henry Tudor VII led his army to England in the village of Bosworth. There, two Yorks, Lord Stanley and Sir William, joined Henry and fought against Richard. Richard III was killed and the Tudor line took the throne. Stoke, 16 June, 1487. A Tudor victory. The last attempt by Yorks to claim the throne. A commoner, Lambert Simnel, impersonated the Earl of Warwick to be crowned King of Ireland, Edward IV. He and Yorkist troops paid German and Irish mercenaries to combat Henry VII. Henry VII intercepted the Yorks at East Stoke. Lambert Simnel was captured and made the king's servant. The ending of the war. The Wars of the Roses came to an end when Henry VII married Elizabeth of York in 1486 and created the Tudor line. After the Battle of Bosworth in 1485, where the current king, Richard III, died, Henry VII took the throne, and since the Tudor line had both blood from the Lancaster line and York line, his son, Henry VIII, could not be denied the crown. This marriage also ended any future disputes on lineage, whether York or Lancaster. How the wars affected England. After the Wars of the Roses, England was under the control of the Tudor line. This war devastated the nobility, but had little effect on the population of England as a whole.